For a long time we've heard about the glass ceiling, and obviously there's a lot of women who've smashed through it these days, and more and more women are moving into senior leadership roles, even though the progress has been slow.
Yeah.
But where do you see women holding themselves back in, what do you see that women don't do that they could do more of, or that they do that they, if they did less of, it would actually help them be more valued, more respected, seen more as people who have the potential to move into more senior leadership roles?
Yeah, I think women are their own worst critics, so they don't put themselves forward a lot. I see, like you think that you don't have enough qualification to do this particular job, so you don't actually step up and take it on. I think women need to do more of that. Women need to actually stand up and speak up and step up. And do that on a continual basis. And even if you do, even if if you don't succeed that first time, keep doing it.
Resilience.
Resilience is really important. And putting yourself out there. And but one of the key things I think women need to do is to think about sponsors. We talk about mentors a lot, which is great, but sponsors are really important. And sponsors are people who actually talk in a positive way about you when you're not there. And they don't have to be necessarily senior people. They could be people beside you.
So like your own little publicists.
Your own little publicist, absolutely. And that's what you need to think about is, what are people going to say about me when I'm not there? And work on people who those people are. And like I say, that it's great if you've got sponsors at the senior business level, but that may not necessarily be so. So you need sponsors at all levels. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that. And you need sponsors that are your peers, and you need sponsors who actually work for you, and you need sponsors who are above you. And I think we need to spend more time doing that. A lot of men have that already. They inherently do that. They sort of sponsor each other. And women don't tend to do that enough, I think, And it's not about consciously going out and asking someone to be your sponsor. It's actually working with people so they understand who you are, and and you're doing something to help them. And don't be scared about it. Women tend to think, you have to be genuine, and you don't go and meet with anyone unless you can genuinely do something for them. Well, put yourself out there and meet people. What have you got to lose? Go and talk to somebody and understand them and get to know what you can do to help them and how they can help you. That's what it's all about.
Do you think that women need to promote themselves more, like advocate for themselves more?
I think they need to stand up and speak up. So I don't know about the promoting, but I think we are women. The humility around women is very different to the humility around men, from my observation. So yes, I think so. But and promoting is really letting people know. People don't. How can you expect people to know who you are if you don't tell them, or they're not exposed to you? Don't assume that everybody knows everything about you. So yes, in that sense, I believe we do. I think a lot of women think, well, I'm doing a really good job. I've made all these things happen. This is fantastic. Of course my management know about it. Of course everybody knows about that. Well, they don't. They don't necessarily. They've got a million things going on in their space, and they've got someone else that's telling them how good they are and what they're doing, and they see what you're doing. But really, if you don't actually voice your what you're actually doing, how are they going to really know? And who else is going to be able to put you forward in a better space than yourself? So yes, I do think they do.
Yeah, I think that word self-promotion, it's sort of got that term that sounds like bragging, being full of yourself. Yeah. But to me, there's a difference between tooting your own horn for the sake of feeding your ego and saying I'm fantastic, and really just advocating for what you've done, what you'd like to do, letting people know who you are and getting on their radar. And I think that's just looking at through the lens of not how great you are, but what's the value you have to bring? Yeah. And do the people who are sitting in decision-making roles know about it? Yeah. And do they know what you aspire to? Because if they don't know where your ambitions lie and what you'd like to do, how can they help you, pursue them?
Well, that's absolutely it. So just don't assume. I know myself when I'm managing a team of people, you can't keep on top of everything. And if people keep telling you things, well, it'll resonate with you. But if you don't see that on a regular basis, you just don't know it all the time. So it doesn't hurt to do that. It's actually really important to do that. And as I said before, don't assume that everybody knows everything about you, because they don't. And you can surprise people, and people, they want to know. People want to know what you do, and they want to know what value you bring, and they want to know what's really important to you. And if you're not going to share that with them, don't expect they will know it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And women are not great at doing that. It's just not the way that's not the way we've operated, but we need to change that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's another thing that I think is really important for women is to start talking about, what is it you're doing? How much are you getting paid? We never talk about that, and men do talk about that. And that's, women are, there's a pay gender equity gap in this country of 17.5%. Women just don't talk about that. It's not the thing that you do. But, if we don't actually support each other and talk about it and help each other through this, it's not going to change. What's been happening isn't changing. We need to change the way we focus on that. And I think we need to start talking about that. We need to start having those conversations.
What's your advice to a woman who senses she's not being paid as much as her colleagues,
but
is absolutely worth and contributing every bit as much, if not more? What would your advice be to a woman in that situation who just doesn't know how to go about having that conversation with her manager around her salary?
Well, I think the very first thing is, see what you can find out about what is, are you right, for a start?
Validate
it. And that's not, you can, there's market pricing, you can go and find out what that sort of role is, but you can talk to people. But I would actually have that conversation with your manager, and it doesn't have to be an uncomfortable conversation. You could, just tell them how you're feeling. You say you're not sure. You really, would like to explore this. You feel this is how you feel. Let them know. If you don't let them know, they're not going to do anything about it.
No.
If you do let them know, there's some chance they will do something about it. So isn't that a better option? Have that conversation with them. Talk to them about what value you bring and what you think you're worth. You're worth.
Yep.
That sense, and that's a really good word, because women don't tend to value our, what we do as much as what we should. We don't think about, what am I really worth? What am I actually contributing to this, this role, this organisation, this whatever it is. We don't think about, we don't put a value on ourselves enough. So we need to do that a lot more. But I'd highly recommend you think about those things, find out and validate what it is, what the situation, and think about what you're worth, think about what you're contributing, and then have that conversation with your manager or whoever it is, and say, this is what you're feeling, because they can't deal with it if they don't know about it.
Well, and I think, as you said earlier, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
There is nothing to lose but a whole lot to gain.
Yeah, that's right. Because if you don't do anything about it, you're going to sit there and it's going to annoy you, and
get resentful.
You'll get resentful, and then you're not going to be, perhaps doing what you should or could be doing, and that's going to impact you. Not necessarily anybody else. It's going to impact you and your future. So why not just do it?
Yep.
The people who your managers and senior leaders need to hear these conversations from women, because the women don't start. If we don't start doing that, some women do, but not a lot. If you don't start doing that, well, you're letting them off the hook anyway. So,
I've met a lot of men in senior management roles who honestly, really genuinely want to support women. They're not intimidated and they're not threatened by women. I know there is a discourse that, there are men that are, but I've met a lot that aren't. They're genuinely wanting to support women. And they often at a bit of loss. How do we do that? How do I do that more effectively? I'm not sure how I do it, besides, giving opportunities and things. But even women have shared this with me, that women don't go in and have these conversations. They don't put themselves forward. They don't advocate for themselves. And so we've got to put ourselves out there. We've got to be forward, instead of going, I don't have everything it takes. Just go, you know what? It's okay. I can figure it out. And I think when we do that, we actually really help ourselves. As you said, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And I think we've got to get out of our own way, put ourselves out there, back ourselves, value what we have to offer more highly.
Yeah, exactly. And I've experienced that too. There's a lot of men there are genuine men who really want to do that. My advice to those men is, find some women that you can actually sponsor, and you don't have to even let them know, but consciously go out and have a think about that, and also we talk about. You often see men that will step up to a position and they may not have all the qualifications to do it, and then they'll put a lot of support around them to be successful. Well, start doing the same thing for women. Don't just put them there and say, oh, well, actually that didn't work. Put the women in these roles and give them support to make it happen. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Do it. Do it again. Keep doing it and change it. Bring them on the journey with you. Share with them information. Have conversations with them that you would have with men and, you know, about business. They've got a lot to contribute, but don't expect the same answers. You know, you'll get a different. That's why, you know, the diversity of it is what is the strength of it.
Absolutely.
And another thing I would actually also say is, if you're in a management role, you know, you have a responsibility to be fair. And just because someone can come in and negotiate it better than somebody else, does that make it fair that you don't give that other person that same pay rise, because knowing that they're, you know, doing just as good a job, if not better? I mean, people need to start to think about that. You know, what, just because you can get away with it, does that make it right? You know, we have to be responsible for making that change happen all around us. So that would be my advice too.
It's a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, a manager needs to be thoughtful about not just giving opportunity to those who might advocate for themselves best. By the same token, we also have to take responsibility for not assuming that just because we're working really hard, that's enough to land us the opportunities we want. You know, right. So it's a two-way street, both the people who are in the decision-making roles, but for us ourselves to go, you know what, I've got to get out there and push for myself versus just waiting to have my hard work be recognised and rewarded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.